hey, how can I help someone do something that they need or want, or a team do something they need or want, or an enterprise do something they need or want, and use my mind, my heart, my ears, and my mouth in some combination so they could achieve that. That's sales.
Everything leads to growth with the National Association for Sales Professionals. The Leads to Growth podcast with the National Association for Sales Professionals provides in-depth discussions sharing the best sales, prospecting, influence, and communication skills, as well as sales training techniques to take your professional sales career to the next level.
All right, welcome back to our Leads to Growth podcast. We are the National Association of Sales Professionals. My name is Christopher McCoy, aka Miami. You can call me Chris and a lot of other things. I'm really excited about our guest here today. We've got Nick Araco here today. Nick, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, Chris. Nice to hear and see you.
Mom, great to see you as well, brother. So Nick's over in Philadelphia. As you know, we our headquarters here in Austin, Texas. But hey, it's the virtual world nowadays. You can do podcasts however you, right? I love it.
Exactly.
So all of you who don't know, so first off, this is a sales podcast, right? What is the outcome of our podcast? The outcome of our podcast is to help salespeople be their best selves, right? And we do that through a lot of different ways, right? You can learn some great strategies out there. But what we've found here at NASP is that it's through social proof. It's through belief. It starts on the inside, right? And that's why I love this guy, Nick Araco. So Nick is the co-founder and chairman and CEO of AchieveNEXT. He's also the founder of AchieveNEXT Alliance Peer Advisory Network. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, but very exciting, including the CFO Alliance and the CHRO Alliance. Previously, Nick served as a senior leadership roles in leading global law, accounting, and business advisory firms. He's an established and led human capital management practice and was a practicing attorney as well. Nick is a published thought leader. He's been on Bloomberg and all over the media, and is a highly sought after public speaker and recognized global leader. He's a highly sought after phone call too, trust me. Over the past 2 decades, Nick has been able to bring his people skills, right? And his ability to sell and his unique ability to make connections that count to empower growth, finance, HR, sales, and other C-suite executive and business leaders all across North America. So what this guy has done is he's built a beautiful business and a growing empire of value leads, money follows. And Nick, thank you so much for joining us here on the Leads to Growth podcast, man.
Thank you, Chris. What an intro, man. I hope I live up to the standards so your listeners leave saying, I want more. That's my hope.
Man, I love that. So Nick, first off, I love what you've done through your career. So look, sales doesn't always look like sales job. It's not always the person just sitting there picking up the phones all days or running around taking orders. Sales has so many different faces.
Yes.
I love with what you have done is you've built an amazing sales career without sales titles. And you've probably had them throughout your career, but you've gone through this way and you've done it in an unconventional way. But you've done it just the same, nevertheless. And so I want to reach out first and say, did you have an origin and start in sales? Did you have some early sales experience that brought you all the way here?
Well, I can tell you from my earliest days, I'm blessed with a wonderful family and parents who work hard and play hard to this day. And from the days that I could remember, or the days where I could first prop myself up and stand up or crawl or move, I had the directive and the opportunity to interact with a broad audience. First beginning with my family, a passionate Italian family that speaks loud, moves fast, moves with their heart and mind at all times. And when we need to, we smile and laugh and cry when we're apologizing, scolding, and accepting praise and credit. There's always this sense of feeling behind everything. So first of all, I was raised in an environment where all of that pain, that joy, that happiness, that success, that failure, that sorrow was celebrated with people. And then that translated into the fact from when I could remember, my parents said, you need to get a job, and that job's going to be working with the public, the people, and in some way, shape, or form. So boy, does that teach you something when you're, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, and you're just shaping that mind and heart, and you have to serve others, help others, and perform for others. So from when I can remember, I would call that some version of selling in some way, shape, or form.
Absolutely. I love that. And building relationships and rapport, communication, I mean, that's all selling really is, right? So I've always seen a lot of successful salespeople come from the Mormon church, right? They have that practice, they have that routine that they go out on their mission, and they talk and they talk and they talk, and they gain that experience. So I love it. Yeah. So tell me how you went from attorney to now here with this great exchange that you have with the CHRO and the CFO and training and AchieveNEXT. How did this switch happen? How did this shift go?
So here's what I loved about what the education and early experiences of being a lawyer taught me. Your words, your body language, your impression matters. And the substance and form of the way that you communicate to people is going to determine whether or not that person responds, reacts, and takes action upon what you're attempting to get them to do. The art of communication and persuasion, I think I can tell you, is probably the most frequently used transferable skill I took from my early days of legal training and the practice of law. What really drove me from the practice of law to my career today is that I wanted to see how I could apply all of that positive spirit of one-to-one and group interaction and persuasion out of an adversarial environment where one wins and one loses to an environment where both and everybody can win. That's sales.
And
in my opinion,
that's the difference of ill-perceived sales and what sales and really good sales actually is as well.
Yes. It's and Chris, even if it's a no-go, even if at the end of the day, both parties or one party says, God, I love this, but I'm going to choose a different path. Or someone says, I think you'd be better off choosing a different path. You've still created a relationship and an impression and a reputation and a roadway and lifeline to future opportunities that could lend itself to something a little more deliberate.
See, now this is the gold that you will take from this podcast right now, everyone. What he said there is he didn't go to a sale and say, this is either a win or a loss for me, right? No, he said, no, it's going to be a win for me, right? And so he said, okay, well, if they say yes, it's a win. And if they say no, it's going to be a learning lesson. No, he didn't say that. No, he said, yes, I'm going to learn, but also I'm going to say, yes, if this is a yes, it's a win for me. And if they say no, it's going to be a win for later. And he maintained a golden relationship. So every sale he ever had, every conversation or interaction for a sale he ever had, he took as golden momentum as value as he built up his sales career. That is what I love, dude.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, I had to explain to people, I think our colleagues in sales get a bum rap. I really do. First of all, I want to see more robust, earlier in time recruitment of early stage young talent brought into sales, not falling into sales, not reluctantly being pushed into sales, not you must not be able to do anything else well. You're going into sales, or you have a loud voice. My God, you should be in sales, right? Why is there not a curriculum from elementary school and beyond to harness the power of those skills, competency development, application of it, and celebration of it throughout life? And why does it have to be until I need a title on a business card?
It's so true, because we took only the innate pure salespeople and allowed them to be the salespeople. Everybody else just wasn't there. And then, as you said, as the positions opened up, we're like, we'll fall in there. There's a ginormous percentage of marketing graduates. If you have a marketing degree, I think it's something like 7 out of 10 of you will end up in your first job. It will be sales.
Right.
Also, what's the biggest gap between most companies as well? The link between their marketing and sales companies, right? Or in marketing and divisions.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't get it. I had to write an article that it actually got published in the Legal Intelligencer 20 plus years ago. It was titled Running from the Law. And it was my story at age 28, 29, where I said, hey, listen, I've already achieved some nice little success early in my legal career. But I asked my supervisor at the time, what's next? And they said, well, you just wash, rinse, repeat, and do more of this. And I was like, that's not going to work. And some may say, oh, Nick, that was your entrepreneurial buzz. I'm going to tell you, no, it wasn't. It was my sales buzz. It was my buzz to say, hey, how can I help someone do something that they need or want? Or a team do something they need or want, or an enterprise do something they need or want, and use my mind, my heart, my ears, and my mouth in some combination so they could achieve that. That's sales.
So I love what you just said there. Help somebody get something they need or want. In the world today, we call that, oh, you're a philanthropist, or you're just trying to do good in the world or something. No, that's how you get paid. That's how you become wealthy, right? This is how you do it. People think that there's this limited quantity of things in the world, and that if I give you yours, there might not be enough for me out there somewhere. And I love what you said. No, that is sales, helping people get what they want. Why? Because then you become invaluable. And so
you do. And you could call me an advocate, Chris.
Yes.
Never call me a missionary, because I'm a capitalist on top of being an advocate.
Absolutely. So this is one of the other things I love about you. For all y'all who don't know, I've kind of like watched what Nick has done here, and like I've got a little of that envy. I'm like, this dude did exactly what a great salesperson would do. He said, all right, what's preventing me from selling more of this thing, right? And he said, you know what? I'm having this big problem on the other side of my buyers. They're having a challenge saying yes to the things that I know that they need help. They're having a challenge for me helping them. They're getting in their own way. How can I help them get out of their own way? And that's where you took your next step. And tell me about that.
Yeah, it is. It is. So what's the greatest source of confidence boosting, confidence building, or go or no go on a sale? When a qualified peer of that buyer says, hey, here's the problem I have. Here's a roadblock I hit, or don't do this, or do this, or do that. If you could be I first started with me, and now our company does this. If I could be the person that put those two together and said, you had that problem, you have that problem, talk amongst yourselves. I'm not leaving you alone, because I'm going to broker that, and I'm going to make sure that I can help you. All three of us now leave feeling good moving forward.
Yes.
That's where the beauty of this business of networks with solutions came together.
Love it. It's beautiful, because You were a solutions providing person. You were a resource for people, a trusted value. You had worked through what we call our campaign model. You had given everybody around you certainty because you weren't a salesperson that took from them. You were always looking to add value. You were always there, available, and you always were aligned with your trust. They had certainty in you. I'm sure you gave them significance because I know everybody in the room with you feels better about themselves, and they know that they feel good when they're around you because you're good at that. So then when it came time to have an ask or an opportunity, you had the rapport built in already.
I didn't even have to ask.
Yeah.
I didn't have to ask. So I say this, the problem that we're solving today, it's a big problem for individuals, for teams in the workforce. The ability to meet and benchmark with their peer, to know what they're doing it, and to know that how they can do things better, faster, smarter. Right? Isn't that the world we live in today? Yeah, every problem is somehow centered around that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? I need to do something. I need to know who my peers are that are doing it too. And I need to know now in this world we live in, how to do that better, faster, smarter.
I wrote this down as I was looking at what you do. And it's like, everybody wants to know, all right, what are my peers doing? What's the social proof that's working out there? Okay, great. And how do I figure that out in my own industry when I'm managing my own company and all this stuff? I go to somebody who knows, right? So I can save time, because time is one of my most valuable assets, right? And then also we have mutual challenges that my peers, every one of the people in my job in every industry, we're having the same challenges. So it's shared experience, aligned and in a trusted resource.
Well, the other thing, Chris, that I think all of us in sales should consider is the following. This is the other thing. 50% of so in my peak, not as CEO, in my peak in a dedicated sales role, I started receiving awards for, most top originator, most dollars, most wins, quantity, quality, and the like. Mm-hmm. But I analyzed those and I studied the fact that two things. I had the most opportunities, which means I had the most losses. They weren't really losses though, were they? They were, we'll get you the next time and we'll help bring the relationship forward. And second, this was the other piece. If I don't know, I know who does, became my answer to everything. And I wanted that to be an ecosystem that I had an understanding of who was in it. And I wanted to be able to tap into it anytime, anywhere, on demand.
And you know what that does?
So being okay to say, if not me, but them, totally won me more business.
Yeah, because if I'm calling and I'm afraid that you're a one-stop shop, you're just a hammer looking for nails. What are you going to see when I call you no matter what? It's your job. It's your responsibility. How can I expect you to do anything less? Right. But if you say, hey, no, look, I got a full tool belt and I'm not about hammering nails. I'm about servicing you for whatever you need. That becomes your win. Your win becomes making sure that they're happy, whether it's working with you or not. And when they can trust that over repetition and over time, then now you've shared that across peers. And then that's when you become a whole nother level of authority, and you can start putting together groups of people with large masses and orchestrating the pieces in which you need now, because you've built the trust on both sides.
Well, and Chris, you also, and now that it's a company with dozens of people involved, you have to be able to allow AchieveNEXT and everyone who's in sales, right? Mm-hmm. Approach those interactions with authenticity in themselves, which means you can do what you and I are talking about, making connections, creating dialogue, enhancing understanding, challenging or validating confidence of a decision maker who has an issue, an opportunity, or a problem. But you don't have to do it my way.
I love that.
You have to do it in a way that in both substance and form is authentic, but also maps to the fact that that person on the other side may not communicate in the same way, shape, or form that you do comfortably. I'm a very overt, passionate man who speaks with his hands, his mouth, his voice, his face. I have to know that the person on the other side may be thinking, more introverted, a more process-oriented, less impulsive type person. And I need to respect that so that if we can do business together, they say, I want to work with them or him.
I love that. Have you had a difficulty as you build the company in a larger enterprise where I'm sure you were the one-stop shop for everybody in the relationship to now start stepping above that and allowing other people to retain that same culture and that same perspective and loving, nurturing way that you deal with your people the same way you do?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not an easy thing when somebody says, I think the secret to your success is your formula. And you go, well, that's great. Other than writing a book and or hitting a speaking circuit, I'm not going to get anywhere. How do you make this scalable while at the same time saleable by you? Mm-hmm. And so you've got to take a step back and think, okay, what's going into that interaction? And this is where you and I started the conversation. Sales although it involves numbers, it's not an equation. It's, in my opinion, a recipe and a formula that together makes a great meal.
With taste, right? Like a real Italian makes that.
Yes,
you got to taste that.
Smell.
Yeah.
There's the Italian in me. Taste and smell and texture and gas at times if it's eat too much of it or too little of it. Sure. It's all of that. Sales is a meal, right? Enjoy the meal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. So I got.
So yeah, you got to treat it like a recipe, and then you can feed people, and they can put their own little, right? What happens, Chris? The last recipe you made, you threw another ingredient in, didn't you? And it still tasted good. Or you threw another ingredient in and it tasted bad, and you never put it back in.
But I had the
sales is a recipe, and it's a meal. It's breaking bread.
I love it. And having that is a
right. You have the base ingredients. Yeah. Well, and now in this day and age, you can cook it a lot of different ways. It used to be over an open fire. Every recipe was, you put it over the open fire for this long. Then we went to ovens. Then we went to microwave. Now we've got air fryer, right? Now we've got every possible way to cook it. You've got to know that sales, especially in the world we live in now, I hate hearing that, well, I did all my sales via face-to-face and I can't do it now that I'm not face-to-face. There's something wrong with your recipe then.
I love it. I love it. It's not just a template, y'all. It's a recipe to taste, and you got to add your own flavor, and you got to adjust, and you got to remember who you're sitting with too. Remember what they like to eat.
Well, and Chris, it makes it okay if they don't like Italian food, and they don't need Italian food. Maybe I could recommend a good Chinese food place or a French food place, and they're still carrying me along with them. And I can still follow up and say, I recommend you try this on the menu. And I tell them I called you for you. Tell them I told you to come here.
And when they have success, they'll remember you and the way that you took care of them.
That's right. That's being an advocate, not a missionary, an advocate. That's sales.
Love it, Nick. Love it. All right, one more for you, brother. So tell me about a time throughout your career that you went through a challenge that either diverted you towards to getting here or that gave you that clarity. Because one of the things you said earlier is that, you got to step back sometimes, right? To see what that recipe looks like. And sometimes you only step back when something happens, right? When you go through a tough challenge. Well, tell me about something like that got you here today.
Yeah, and I think this will resonate with a lot of the professionals from NASP, especially the ones who had initial success, didn't know why, thought I'll just keep doing what it is that I'm doing until one day it doesn't work, or one day you move into an environment where they say, here's the matrix, the recipe, the formula, and adhere yourself to that. And what typically happens, Chris, when someone's forced to change? We're human beings. We have a reaction. we stop, we halt, we question, we
Freeze.
get concerned, and we end up probably, it impacts our performance. So for me, who was always recognized with that guy who doesn't need a recipe, formula, a matrix, or a plan, the first time I was forced into one, I was scared and I was nervous and I was resistant and I was skeptical. And it took me too long to open myself up to say, just because they may approach this differently doesn't mean it's gonna negatively impact me. I have to open myself up. So that, that forced me to look at sales completely differently. And now as a CEO and sales leader, I think you can have the best of both worlds. You can bring that recipe like formula and you can put some rigor behind it that makes it more efficient, more effective, more fun. So my big challenge was, hey, I have all the answers. Look at my performance. And I waited too long to say, hey, wait a minute, stop, Nick. Try this. And lo and behold, they were right.
Yeah, right. You hindsight 2020, you're like, look, if I would have stopped and systematized this thing a long time ago, man, I might be on a beach a little bit more often this year than I would have. It's very easy to say that when things stop or halt, but when things are going good, when you're finding success, it's not always easy to stop and take a step back and say, hey, what's working and what's not working, so I can take notes and leave breadcrumbs and get back here again.
Yes, that's exactly it. And I think that's advice that in this day and age, given the rapid pace of change and the social world that we live in, where opinions from people that we can and should trust and rely upon are available 24/7, and information's at our disposal. We have no excuse but to put ourselves in a position to attempt to be smart and deliberate with what we ingest, but we need to ingest it.
100%, man. It's garbage in, garbage out. I mean, you learned it in third grade or second grade, man, right?
Yes. Exactly right.
And the more you focus on, and the more what you focus on, you find. What you focus on grows.
Yeah.
You focus on seems real, and eventually what you focus on, you become. This cold weather is shaking up the internet, but we have held tight and we've gotten through this. Listen, that's what happens when you're dealing with another podcast pro over here. A guy who just knows how to be flexible. Internet's fuzzy. Let me just go ahead and riff here a little bit. I really appreciate it. Hey, man, Nick, so
all good, my friend.
Hey, so tell everybody where they can find you. So first off, y'all, AchieveNEXT.com is
yes.
Please.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's one place, but I'm going to tell you right now, I love when people connect with me on LinkedIn.
There you go.
I love when people customize their message to me. Start with a question. Start with a comment. Let's make a special sauce together at some point, right?
Yeah.
And we'll enjoy it. Let's make our own recipe.
Awesome, and I'll make sure to include your LinkedIn in the podcast notes. But listen, this guy's got a great podcast as well. Nick, what is the name of your podcast, and where can they find it?
My podcast our podcast is called Level Up, and you can find it on every major broadcast channel, from iTunes to iHeartRadio and beyond.
And you're also going to find it right on his LinkedIn page, y'all. So he's got some notes of it there as well. Nick, really, honestly, I really, truly appreciate the time with you, man. I look, this guy's busy, y'all. Busy, but he always stops to help his people and to look out for his friends. And that's why he is who he is today. And I want everybody to take note that the relationships that you build from day one are the most valuable thing that you can take. Experience and relationships, you start those from day one and you can accumulate them. They make wealthy people, not just money. Money comes and goes so fast, but relationships, those things they pay forever, man.
Chris, that's the only currency that goes with you when we go from cradle to grave.
Amen.
Think about it that way. You can't take your money with you, but those relationships live on beyond it, and in your legacy, and they've touched people in a way that far goes beyond a dollar or a check or a Bitcoin.
100%. Yeah. Listen, when the bank account's low, y'all, I still got a friend I call anytime I need, right? Like I remember times in the past where I didn't have a dollar in my pocket, but I ate and drank for free everywhere I went, bro, everywhere. So listen, life is all about that. Nick, thank you very much for being a great example. Look, we're all about changing the name and the image of sales in the world today, because look, it's the number one career moving forward. People have to be adaptable. They have to be flexible, and sales is a skill that's going to be one of the strongest skills. Bill Gates said it not too long ago. It's the number one skill moving forward in the next 20 years. So
I couldn't agree more. I commend you and NASP. Keep up the good work.
Oh, man. Well, thank you for being a sales pro, a great example, and a great friend, man. For everybody else out there, make sure that you go to Leads to Growth podcast on all the places you get your podcasts. Make sure that you subscribe, leave a review if you liked it. If you don't, let us know as well. All right. We'd love to hear from you, know how we can improve. Thank you so much for being here. Check us out, nasp.com. Get your free membership today. Get a coaching call. We've got some great certifications, and we will tell you all about that in our resource center. So cheers, y'all. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks, Nick.